In this episode of Trucking History, I want to show you another company you've never heard of. It's been a while since I've done one, so it's time to introduce you to P&F Motor Express Company. It was an interstate carrier in North Carolina, which meant they only hauled freight within the state. The North Carolina Public Utilities Commission granted a Certificate of Convenience and Necessity on October 7, 1932, for P&F to operate the following routes: between Wilmington and Hamlet, between Boardman and Lumberton via Fairmont, between Lumberton and Rayford via Red Springs. There was a restriction to the operating authority that prevented P&F from serving any points between Charlotte and Hamlet. Almost a year later, the certificate was amended to allow P&F to serve all points between Wilmington and Charlotte. Just a few days later, another route was granted to include Whiteville to Tabor City. On September 12, 1935, two more routes were added, this time Wilmington to Charlotte and Charlotte to Whiteville. P&F had its main office in Wilmington. Fitzhugh L. Formey Duval was president and local manager. His wife, Mrs. Thelma Formey Duval, was secretary and treasurer. Their residence was in Lake Waccamaw. When Charlotte opened up as an important terminus for P&F, they hired Oscar P. Corbett as vice president and city manager for Charlotte operations. By 1938, P&F moved to their own terminal in Wilmington, having shared with three other carriers for several years. On September 28, 1942, P&F Motor Express was acquired by Miller Motor Express of Charlotte, a much larger interstate carrier operating from as far south as Atlanta, Georgia, and upward to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and New York. There were several other small trucking companies in Wilmington, North Carolina from as early as 1930. Along with P&F Motor Express, three others shared space at 3 South Water Street. They were Dixie Motor Express, H. Hunt and Company, and Wilmington Clinton Freight Line. Apparently, all used Wilmington Clinton as their local cartage agent, since in 1930, Daniel J. Black was listed as the manager and as agent for the others. Remember how the owners of P&F did not live in Wilmington but maintained their home in Lake Waccamaw? Well, Henry Hunt, who owned H. Hunt and Company, lived in Elizabethtown, North Carolina. 2 years later, Daniel J. Black was running his own trucking company called Black's Motor Express. H. Hunt and Company had become Hunt's Motor Express, and all were sharing space at 1 Princess Street near Water Street. Some companies came and went, only lasting a short time hauling freight in Wilmington. Among those were North State Truck Lines, Capital Coast Express, and McLeod's Transfer. People would move from one company to another. For example, Mrs. Rosa H. Baldwin was the manager of Capital Coast Express, then moved to be an office assistant with McLeod's Transfer. The interstate carriers finally arrived in Wilmington beginning in 1946, when P&F was acquired by Miller Motor Express, mentioned before. Overnight transportation arrived a year later. So there you have it, the story of a company you've never heard of, plus some other history of trucking in Wilmington. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you want to leave a comment, feel free. See you in the next one.